you've got an interesting career, if you want to say, because you were a journalist beforehand.
Yes.
Yes. So can you tell me about that?
Yes. I originally I had thought I did a psychology degree originally,
Right, okay.
thinking I might want to be a psychologist, but and then at some point I really got interested in journalism to be able to promote, as an activist journalist, things that I believed in. And I don't suppose I could write before I became a journalist, but I worked for, I suppose, 7 years or so as a journalist on a UK monthly magazine, which was a fantastic experience, and working with very good writers and editors. So I learned how to write and edit and had a whale of a time. But then at some point I decided I wanted to do something rather than write about something. So that was when I decided that I wanted to change. And at that point, my mum was an English teacher, so she thought writing was a good thing. My dad was in the chemical industry, and for whatever reason, I decided that I wanted to try. So I'd always been I did computing at school, really early days, and we didn't have a computer at that point at school. We were sent away to a technical college, and I was pretty good at that. So I thought I would do a conversion degree into essentially engineering decision support systems at a very technology university, really kind of heavy duty technology. But what was really interesting was, so it was a heavy duty technology institution, that I immediately found that my writing, presenting, people management skills were more useful even on the course than anything technical, because we did lots of group projects, so I could coordinate the group projects, and everybody was very nice about it. Lots of techie young men.
Yeah.
And so I had a kind of intimation that I was probably never going to be that techie, but I was going to work in technical industry. And after I'd done my MSc in engineering, essentially engineering decision support, which of course is where I got very interested in how we make engineering decisions, I got a job in an engineering R&D centre, which was originally, I was going to be a programmer, I guess.
Okay.
I never did any programming, because I was quite quickly promoted to be a manager and then to run the team. So I ended up running a very heavy duty team, but I myself never actually did the programming or the maths, because the main thing we were working on was modeling complex fluid flow and horrible maths, of course. But also I had been hired to look at decision support systems, intelligent knowledge-based systems. But as I said, I quite quickly became a manager. And actually out of that, I then got involved. We wanted to do something in water. We thought we had something useful to offer with modelling in water, high-level water, big water systems. And through that, I ended up fairly quickly being consulting for water companies on planning. So I didn't know what asset management was at that point, but you can see I'm a sort of proto-asset manager already, looking at long and short-term planning, models to support that. And then I got involved in actual consulting on business process re-engineering around water planning and resource planning. And I never had to think about resources, water resources. I was helping them think about how to model it or how to make decisions on it, or how to even plan. So it was kind of funny career. I had thought I was going to do something quite techie, and I never did. But I did get involved in thinking about things like planning quite quickly some point in the mid-90s. So that was really, and that was very interesting. And my most interesting experience there, when I was still working for this engineering research centre, was helping out with drought in the northern. Now, I don't know if anybody knows England. It's not dry in the north of England. It's dry in the south, but not in the north. And there was a completely unprecedented drought in the north of England that also affected southern Scotland and Northern Ireland. And it just didn't rain for a year, and everybody's in trouble. So I had a real ringside view for particularly at Yorkshire Water on managing a drought. They managed it all right with the help of our model, but it sort of destroyed their management. They had a terrible reputation after it for saying stupid things about share a bath with your neighbours or whatever it was that people do in droughts.
Yeah.
I mean, you know much more about droughts, of course,
Yeah.
than England does. When Yorkshire Water finally came out of the drought, they had a completely new board and management team, and the new CEO had heard of this newfangled thing called asset management and had decided that was the way forward, probably persuaded by big management consultancy that it was a place to go. That was the first time I'd ever heard about asset management. So that was in about 97. So, but I'd sort of been building up to it. I was particularly interested in, well, I got interested for a while in basic asset data, because although we were doing a model with horrible maths, of course, Yorkshire Water were quite interested in how we might interface with things like the work management system or performance reporting or leakage or whatever it might be. So I spent a bit of time looking at those kind of base data and got very, asset hierarchies and how to model linear systems. At that point, most work management systems couldn't handle linear very well. GIS didn't know how to do it either, actually. At that point, you couldn't connect things in GIS. You could just put them on a map. And I also got interested in the time series data, which, of course, is, from an asset management point of view, is much more interesting, is what's happening to failure, what's happening to costs, what's happening to performance at time. So for a little while in the late 90s, I was quite into basic asset information and how to support it. I did get bored after a while, because once you've seen one asset hierarchy, in other words, I don't think I think it's a solved problem. But it did mean that I was very interested in how you use data to make decisions. You can see from my background. And it was through that, proposing that in water we have a series of conferences on knowledge, information, and data, which trying to get people thinking about how to use data to make really quite complicated decisions like long-term resource planning for water resources. And it was a conference there where I was talking about something where somebody came up to me and said, "You need to be an asset manager." So that was the first time I'd ever thought about it. It wasn't anybody I'd ever met. So a strange guy comes up to me at a conference and says, "You need to be an asset manager. Come and have a cup of tea with me and I'll tell you why." But actually, he was a very interesting person in the UK asset management scene. And I was really sort of hooked from then on in. And okay, so that's basically
the rest was history.
my journey to it, and the rest is history. In 2001, I set up a small strategic asset management partnership with a couple of people from Yorkshire Water, a couple of senior people from Yorkshire Water, and a couple of colleagues from where I was working. And I guess what we were sensing was that there was a market to talk about asset management, but at that point there weren't many consultants. I mean, there wasn't much happening.
No,
by the turn of the century.
It was the
in
same
Britain,
here.
there wasn't much happening.
The same.
So, well, you had things a bit earlier, like in rail, and the sort of water history in asset management. And I do think that asset management got to England via somebody, Roger, whoever it was, coming and talking to what was the Computerized Maintenance Management System Society, which then decided to rename itself the Institute of Asset Management. It's about 1994.
So that's how it happened.
So we definitely got the idea from Australia, from a couple of people in Australia. But nothing much happened then. It was still, if anybody was doing anything, it was maintenance or reliability engineering. It's only really coming into this century that UK really seriously started doing asset management. There were one or two people who'd done things in the late 90s. So I was really lucky by accident to kind of get in the early days.
Enjoyed this video? press the like button and subscribe. If you'd like to see more, please click on the Patreon link below and sign up.